Okay, this might be the one and only time that you're going to hear me truly flex, or humble brag, okay? But do you see this glorious artwork behind me? Well, this story is going to be about her and how I acquired her. Because she is a crazy quilt. And let me just show you a little bit more of her detail up close. Okay, so this is again her in all of her glory. Let me show you even closer. Okay, so she just about ends right there at the end of my shelf here. And yes, we do collect a lot of rocks and beach glass and what have you. I'll just show you that real quick. Little bird coasters. Anyway, they're not organized right now, but that's okay. But this is her. See, we've got, let's see, we've got the little horse. It's upside down, but still. What else do we have? She does have a moth right here. Could be a butterfly. Some flowers. This little like gold piece with navy blue. Whatever that is, I'm really not sure right now. More flowers. That looks like a couple of bugs. But, I mean, it's just spectacular. Now, she is from, the date is on the back of this, and I cannot flip her around currently, but I believe that this beauty is from 1925 or 1927. That's definitely something I'm going to want to figure out soon. I think it's 27. Because if it is 1925, that means that next year she's going to be 100. But I believe she's from 1927. And she does have another side to her. Like I just said, she is double-sided. And I feel very fortunate that she is, because not all of them are. And let me just adjust you a little bit more so she is more of the focal point a little bit. But I feel very fortunate that I have this crazy quilt. It's interesting because when I acquired her, I had just gotten out of toxic mold. Freshly out. I don't remember how many months I had been out. I'm not sure. And out of a stressful situation, even less time. So, yeah. I did have still quite a bit of money to live off of, and for a few things for ourselves. From the house sale, because I did have to sell the house, just because we couldn't, physically we couldn't, it just worked for us to sell the house. And so that's a part of my story is I sold this house, and I spent a lot of time healing, living off of that money. And, I don't live in an area where houses sell for very high, and it wasn't at the peak of the market, so, that money didn't last very long, but that's a total separate note. I say that just to say that we were one day walking around an antique shop, because that is one of my favorite pastimes. usually when I'm in there, I like to pick up, maybe cute little embroidered doilies or just, little trinkets, or little oddities. I also have up there hanging on my lamp. I don't know if you can see that. She's like a little doll. She's like a crazy quilt sort of doll, handmade. I don't know when she's from. I don't know if she's like an authentic crazy quilt doll. She could be a pincushion as well. I'm not sure. I've shown her in a different video. But I find things like her. She's very cute to me. Little quirky, just little inexpensive trinkets, what have you. And I enjoy just being around antiques and old things and just admiring them. And one day we were walking around the antique store, and it was funny because my mom and I both saw this crazy quilt hanging outside of a trunk, like an old steamer trunk. And we both stopped in our tracks and went over to her, because at this time I didn't know what a crazy quilt was. No idea. I just knew that throughout my life, I'd had this concept, because I don't know if any of you guys are like this out here, but I have concepts in my head for clothing items that don't exist. I need to be a seamstress or something, because these need to come out into the world and to be a product, or at least for my own self. And this type of patterning with the jewel tones and just the craziness and the stitching has always been ruminating my head. Maybe I've seen it in some sort of media, some sort of something somewhere, because this sort of patterning has always been in my spirit, in my head. And I've always wanted something like with this patterning on it. It just was a dream of mine. I had no idea what this was called. And apparently my mom had felt the same way, because we both had stopped in our tracks and we rushed over to her and we were like, oh, this is so beautiful. I can't even explain to you how breathtaking she was. We were just examining her, and we couldn't get over the velours and the velvets on her, and just the different embroiders on her. Embroidering. Anyway, she was incredible and is incredible. And we both were just talking about how we had that same patterning in our head, that we had always wanted something with that patterning. I couldn't believe that my mom had experienced this too, that she always had that desire to have something with that look. And there she was right in front of us. We saw the price tag, and the price tag, we thought, said $45. Because we, again, had no concept of what this was. We thought, oh, she's older, cool, wow, fun. She's in an antique store. She's a cool quilt. Had no idea the value that society had on crazy quilts, or how much they went for. I just thought this was a crazy coincidence that this pattern had struck this chord, or that struck this inspiration in my mom and I for years, and it was right before us. So to us, $45 seemed like, oh, even 45, honestly, we were at that point, because we had just gone through so much trauma, we were a little bit like, 45, well, she's an antique. We do love her. We were justifying 45. Oh, embarrassing now. Embarrassing now, just that we had to justify any of that, but we were. And we were going back and forth on it, but we were like, we have to get her, because if we would just be heartbroken if we hadn't. And so we took her, and we went up to the counter, and they told us it was $145, and we were like, what? But at that point, so many things had happened in this store mind you, we had just gotten out of toxic mold, and at a different area in the store, there was an area that had mold on the ceiling. This was a pretty huge antique store, so I wasn't that concerned with her having mold on her. But I just felt very paranoid in there, and like honestly a little overwhelmed and triggered by the time we got to the checkout counter. So there was that. I was not about to have a conversation or like think twice, especially since we had the money, which was like a rare occasion. Previously, we had never experienced like being financially able to make $145 purchase like that ever. So this was like kind of a crazy experience for us, and we were like, okay, we want to just get out of the store. 2, we're shocked by the price. How was it like that? But 3, we're also super excited that we have her. It was just kind of crazy. And then we looked at the price tag, and like the one was like not very visible. Like I thought it was like connected to the dollar sign. Like it was not, like I don't know if they were trying to trick people or what, but it was, even when I looked at it, I was like, that's crazy. But it's also not crazy. I look at her and I'm like, wow, she is worth every penny. And then when I started looking into crazy quilts, because if y'all don't know, crazy quilts are a actual thing. These type of quilts with the interesting stitching and the embroidery and the velvets and the various fabrics and talent were extremely popular to make in the early 1900s by wealthy women. And it was sort of this status symbol in a way, because it's like, well, look at all this fabric that I can just use, all this extra fabric that I have that can make a whole quilt, and you know, it was sort of this status symbol. And it sparked, bringing this quilt home sparked just the most, I don't know, magical experience for me, because I started going down these rabbit holes of information about crazy quilts. How were they made, and when were they made, and like, I don't know, just all of this sort of amazing detail that is required to make one of these. It was fascinating, and realizing that we are so lucky to have a double-sided one, because oftentimes they're not double-sided. And it is truly this work of art, because it also looks like, when you really look at them, it looks like they just piece all these pieces together. And if you know anything like even basic about sewing, it's like, well, how does that stick together? Like, how does it the structural integrity hold up? And it's like, oh, because they're actually in panels, but they've cleverly disguised the panels in a way by making them overlap. It's just like the pieces overlap to make them look like they're seamless and they're not in these panels. It's so cool, guys. It's so cool. I just feel so blessed that I have her. And the embroidery is epic. The backside is cool too. I really should have taken her down to show you guys, but maybe a different time, maybe another day, another video. But she's incredible. And if I hadn't been at the right place at the right time with the right crazy financial, like, point in my life, I would never have acquired her. And that is crazy to me, because it sparked this whole new passion. I now have this deep love and passion for crazy quilts. And it's such a cool thing for me to delve into. Like, it's become a new hobby for me. And one day I would love to make my own crazy quilts, be a part of that community. I have no experience in sewing, but I am super interested. And yeah, it's amazing. It's also cool to think about how she's from the early 1900s. Well, 1920s. And I'm like, well, okay. Did that person live in this town? Like, that's crazy. It makes you start thinking all of these things. Like, wow, somebody who made that likely lived in the same town as me and likely made that here. And like, which house did she live in? Did she live it close to me? Did she, like, I just love wondering all of these questions about this woman who made this crazy quilt. And like, how long did it take her? Did it take her a year? Did it take her 6 months? Did it take her a couple of years? Did she, like, what are some of the other things that she made? Clearly she was a really good, like, sewer. She probably made a whole bunch of things. I mean, look at all that fabric. And also, where did she buy all that fabric? Was there like a cool fabric shop here that sold all of these amazing velvets and stuff? Also, were these fabrics considered expensive fabrics for the time? I mean, some of them have held up amazingly. There are a few rips, but for the most part, she's looking great. I just feel very, very blessed. And I don't know. I just like to imagine what her life might have been like, you know? And who was she? Was she married to a wealthy man in the Upper Peninsula who you know, was successful and you know, where did they get their wealth? Yeah, I wonder these things. I love all of the things that came forth from this kind of insane buy that would have never happened previously. Anyway, that's my flex. Maybe the one time you'll ever see me flex, because I'm not here to brag, y'all. I'm not here to brag, although I feel very in love with her. She's one of my most cherished things that I own. Jokingly, I say that, like, if there was ever a house fire, what would I stop and grab? Obviously, that's not real. Obviously, I'm running. I'm not, you know, stop, drop, and roll. I'm getting out of here. I'm not, but it is funny to think about, like, if there were ever an item, you know, besides my dog, besides my mom, if there was an item that I could grab, last ditch effort grab in a fire, would it be her? Quite possibly, because I just am in love. She's history, and she has the most amazing textures. I love velvet. I'm a velvet queen. And you know, for a moment I did have a steamer trunk too, a big steamer trunk. I loved that thing. But it did have a little bit of mildew on the bottom. Some people aren't bothered by it. Some people don't have mold toxicity experiences. And I was needing money at a certain point in time. And so I did sell her. Oh, it's sad, but I'd rather not risk any toxic mold in my life ever. So I did sell her. But I think about things that are around the same time period here that I've seen or I've bought. Like, did the owner of that steamer trunk also own her? Maybe. They're in the same town. Maybe. They're from around the same era. Likely not. Somebody might have, you know, brought that over when they moved here, you know, in the 1970s, and it was, you know, from Kansas or somewhere else. But I like to think about these things. I think it's kind of fun. My second thing that I would save in a fire, let me just show you. I've shown this in a video like a year ago. So if you remember, you remember. If you don't, you don't. But this is the other thing that I would save, and sometimes I'm like, did the person who owned her also own this? Come on. Oh, come on. Is she not gorgeous? Oh, is she not just breathtaking? And it's gold. The pages are gold. I mean, come on. The sheen. This is my blue velvet Victorian photo album. You guys, she's gorgeous. Stunning. Moon detailing. I've literally never seen one. I look online sometimes to see if there's others like her. Never seen one in blue. Never. And it's got moon and star detailings up here. Oh gosh, it's so good. It's so good. I still have yet to put photos in this. She has a few that she came with, but not very much. And even the photos that are in this, I'm like, are these the same people who made her? I doubt it, but it's fun to imagine that all of these things are linked and connected in some way. Let me maybe show you the inside. She's in immaculate condition. Immaculate. I mean, the gold detailing. Oof. Oh, she's gorgeous. And, I mean, they're from the same era. I mean, it's so good. Oh, that's cool. The lighting on my face. This part, I mentioned this in my video a year ago about this, but this thing, I didn't know what this was at first. I was like, why is this broken? Like, what is this? Is this just supposed to be a cute detail? You hold like your postcards or something in here. Cause see, it's got a cutout here. You stick the corner in here. Or maybe your favorite photo, you just stick it in here. Cute, right? It's one of my favorite things that I own. And I love collecting old photographs, even though I don't have very many. I love old photographs. And these are the things that I would save. And surprisingly, that thing was extremely inexpensive. Like, holy moly, why? Sometimes you get lucky, kids. Sometimes in life you get lucky. You get blessed. And yeah, that's my story of how I acquired this crazy quilt. It was completely on accident. And it was maybe the most blessed accident ever, because there are so many things that happened that day that led to us acquiring her, because I genuinely, there's been so many times where something was more expensive than I thought it was, and I just correct them and go, oh, I need to put this back, but I was right place, right time, right circumstance, and it led to this whole world of information about crazy quilts. This is a whole thing. Crazy quilts are a thing, and I love it. Anywho, has anything like that happened to you, where you were at the right place, the right time, the right circumstance, and it led you down a newfound passion? Anyway, have a good day, y'all.